We're back in the tackle room, and today we're talking about why the method to go out to the lake and consistently catch nice bass might not be anything like you think it is. Stick around, we're going to talk all about it. There we go, I got him. Oh yeah, come on, buddy. Whoa, where you going, dude? Whoa. And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing. And if you talk to a lot of anglers or look at the comment section of the videos on this channel, or perhaps any bass fishing channel, you will notice a trend that starts to develop. We as anglers often have a lure fixation. We want to know what type of lure, we want to know the color, and we know all the retrieves because we feel that a lure is some sort of magic bean. That lure is what's going to get us bites. That lure is somehow going to do the impossible and get us fish when nothing else can. But I'm here to tell you that is the wrong way to think about it. Now, don't get me wrong. I love lures as much as anybody else. I definitely have a tackle problem. I love buying tackle. I have way too much tackle, way more than I will ever need. I get crazy with the gear. I want to have a specific rod, a specific reel for this type of lure, that type of lure, and this type of presentation. And to be honest, I probably don't need most of it, but I like having it. I like going out and buying it. It's sort of the process, right? Even if it really doesn't have nearly as much to do with fishing as we like to think that it does. But the truth be told is whenever it comes to serious bass angling, when it comes to seriously going out and catching bass, time and time again, consistently, the best anglers have a process that is not even remotely connected to lures. Lures are way down on the list. For a lot of guys, it's, hey, what lure am I going to throw? That's not the way you should start out. The way you should start out is the day before or a few days before or whatever, get familiar with the weather report because that weather report has vital information in it, okay? A few days before, you want to know, was there a warming trend? Was there a cooling trend? What's that wind going to be like when you get out to the water? Because that will help you determine if there's going to be current, if those bass are going to be more active or less active, cloud cover, whether there's a chance of rain, the barometric pressure. The weather report to a bass angler is gold. That's exactly the type of information that you are going to need in order to put you on fish. Now, combine this with Google Earth, which is something that I've beat into the ground over and over and over again. But Google Earth, something like Navionics, something like Garmin Active Captain, those are all great tools for studying lakes, especially lakes that you are not familiar with, lakes that you probably haven't been on before or may have had very little experience with, or you're looking for new ways to fish that lake. Now, if you combine the weather report and you combine Google Earth, then you're really getting on some information. You have to do your homework. If you want to go out and catch bass consistently, you have to do your homework. Now, if you're looking to go out there and just have some fun with the grandkids, that's fine. You don't have to take it that seriously. Fun is relative. If you're having fun just going out there in a John boat and having an afternoon with it, I'm not saying anything against that. But myself, I probably take bass fishing a little bit too seriously. I love the thrill of the hunt. I love going out there and putting myself on bass. And for me, that starts with every single time doing my homework. I'm poring over those maps and I'm poring over that weather report because I want to see which direction that wind's going to be blowing so I can take a look and see how that applies to the lake and how that's going to apply to the current, which in turn is going to apply to where those bass are going to be set up. So I will have a good idea of where those bass are or where they are not before I even get to the water. So that's why it's very important to go out and do your homework. That's one of the first things you want to do. Check the weather report, comb it for a few days before, and all the way up until you're going to go out to the lake. Even as you're leaving the house or wherever to go to the lake, make sure you have the most up-to-date information. Pair that with whatever satellite imagery you have or whatever map imagery you have. You might even have something like Navionics that has the depth information, and you will have a great piece of the puzzle already fit in place, making things so much easier. Now, the next thing that I do starts when I get to the lake. I look around and I assess the situation. I take a look at the information that I've learned from Google Earth and from the weather report, and I apply it to what I'm seeing, because conditions matter. I need to fine tune. I want to hone in on where those bass are. And you've noticed I've not said anything about this is the lure that I'm going to pick yet. No, we haven't come to that part yet. I need to know water clarity. I need to know water temperature. I want to know how fast that wind is blowing on the water. And I need to see which way that current is flowing and get an overall mood of the lake. You know, I can look down at the boat ramp, or I can look down off of the bank and I can see, hey, there's minnows playing there. There are bluegill in the water right there. And that gives me an idea right there that the fish might be a little bit more active. They might be a little bit more in the mood to bite. Or I may not see any signs of life whatsoever. So either one of those things tells me quite a bit. You know, if I'm seeing life right there by the boat ramp, then chances are I don't have to go very far. If I can find a current seam right there near the boat ramp, especially if it's windy, or if I can find a grass edge or a weed line or something for those bass to set up on that I've studied before and I know I can find it there, that might be the ticket right off the bat right there at the boat ramp. Or I might actually have to go perhaps a few miles before I find anything that I can use, anything that those bass will be relating to. Now, there's going to be bass all over the place. This is true. You're going to go over many, many bass, even if you're fishing from the bank. Even when you're fishing from the bank and you're walking down the bank making casts, there are bass everywhere and they are not biting your lures. Those are not the fish that we are interested in. We're interested in the active fish. That's what we're trying to find. And we're looking around and we're seeing the conditions. We're looking for life in the water and we're looking for life in the air, right? You see the waterfowl, you see the egrets and the cranes and the ducks and the geese, and they're all in an area. Well, there's a pretty good chance that there is food in that area. And if there's food, what the birds are feeding on, then there's going to be food that the bass are feeding on. So you learn to use those tells. You don't necessarily need a suite of fancy electronics, although that certainly helps, but your eyeballs can tell you quite a bit about where those bass are without having to dunk your head under the water and actually take a look. So that's the second thing that I'm doing when I get to the lake. I'm honing it in, I'm refining that picture, making everything come into more focus before I actually decide, hey, this is the lure that I want. When it comes to bait selection, we are finally at bait selection, and I'm using the conditions and what I've learned. Now it's time to go ahead and pick the right lures. And as I've said before, the bass are rarely keyed in to just one thing. Now, one thing may give you more bites over something else, but chances are bites in a certain family, baits in a certain family, whether it's a spinner bait or whether it's an underspin or something possibly like a bladed jig, right? All of those in that area, they might work equally well. One may work a little bit better than the others, but in that family, chances are bass will pretty much bite. If you want to use something like a Texas rig or something like a drop shot or something like a wacky rig or some sort of soft plastic, a lot of times those will work together depending on how those bass are set up. Now, whenever it comes to picking my lures, what I'm going to do, I like to have all three layers of the water column covered. Top water, the middle part where the bass are suspended, and bottom bouncing techniques. We've talked about this before. And just because it's windy, just because the sun is out, it's the middle of the day, and the wind is blowing at 30 miles an hour, that doesn't automatically take top water off of the table. If I'm seeing bass being active and I'm seeing them splash, I will certainly make sure that I have top water tied on, because I will never miss a chance to try to catch a bass. A lot of times you'll see bass jumping, you'll see them being active. Now, they may not be chasing bait fish up top. They may be more submerged. They may be more suspending and chasing individual fish like we've talked about before, in which case something like a fluke, something like a jerkbait might be more the deal, but at least I've got that covered. And last of all, the very last thing I'm going to be thinking about whenever I choose a bait is color. First, I'm going to choose the type, and then I'm going to choose the color, because to me, the color is the least important thing out of every single thing that we're talking about today. The color of the lure, while it does have some impact, I'm not saying it doesn't have any impact, but while it does have some impact on how those fish react to what you're throwing, the chances of it being the deal breaker are a lot more slim than you might think they are. So we need to roll everything together. We need to look at the big picture. Do your homework before you go out to the lake, and make sure you assess the situation when you get out there. Don't just think in terms of lure, 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 lure. And I get so many comments about lowbrow. What lure should I throw here? Lowbrow. What lure would you use there? Lowbrow. What kind of lure should this be over here? And I always reply with the same type of comment, and that is, well, what are the situation? What are you seeing with your eyes? It depends. Are you seeing this or are you seeing that? Because when it comes to having success on the water, when it comes to having consistent, continual success on the water, you need to realize that lure fascination will often hold you back. And it seems like a quick, easy fix, doesn't it? It seems like a real quick, easy fix. If I just have the right lure, if I just have the right color, if I just have the right retrieve, then I can catch fish every single time that I go. I just don't have the right colors. I don't have the right retrieve. I don't have the right gear. And you need to get away from that fixation. You don't need fancy top dollar gear. You don't need fancy top dollar lures. You don't need any of that stuff to go out and consistently catch bass. It doesn't matter what type of bass you're going after. Largemouth, smallmouth, spots, even types of white bass like stripers and hybrids, which are a lot of fun to catch, okay? Don't ever sleep on hooking into a hybrid. Those things fight like crazy. Tons of fun to catch. But the point is don't get so obsessed with the lures, okay? And if you're not catching bass, don't beat yourself up so badly. All you need to do is take that information, because even when you get skunked, even when you're having a hard time on the water, that is still information that you can use to help fill in gaps in the puzzle and make a more complete picture. You know that, okay, on this day, at this time, trying this didn't work. So when you get out to the lake, well, conditions may completely be different, so what you're using may work. But it's more based on the condition and the behavior of the bass than the lures you're throwing. And that, more than anything, is the point that I'm trying to get to. So there you have it. Once you put things in the proper order, you will see an explosion in your number of bites. Do your homework before you go to the lake. Once you get out there, assess the situation, and then lastly, apply that information to select the right lure and the right retrieve. Doing that will certainly help you get more bites. It's hard to get away from lure-itis. We all love buying lures. We all love trying new things, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you keep in mind there is no quick fix. There is no magic bean that works for every situation always. It's going to take work and it's going to take practice, but you can get there. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.